Joyful blessings. This is Kaylin Castell, and I love getting to share with you about the Taurus super full moon. This is the last perigee moon in a series of four, and it's the third closest full moon of the year. So I'll share more about that in a moment. But this full moon is also uh, illuminating sacred pleasure as our divine birthright. And I'm very excited about this piece because we have been taught that pleasure is sinful. At least there's been, I think that's maybe not the case so much anymore, but it was definitely something that I remember hearing as a child. So what I love is that Rumi was looking into how to experience greater pleasure. And he said, there are many ways to the divine. And so we're talking about sacred pleasure or divine pleasure. And he said, I have chosen the ways of song, dance, and laughter, which are all pleasurable for most people. So he also said, what you seek is seeking you. So if we are seeking sacred divine pleasure, it is seeking us as well. So this is something we want to energize and initiate in this full moon, that sacred divine pleasure that we are seeking is seeking us, and that we can cultivate that, we can invite that, we can celebrate that at this full moon, and it can be illuminated. Now, a Taurus full moon celebrates the beauty of the earth and is a great time for slowing down, for appreciating the simple pleasures of life, being out in nature, connected to home and family and friends, community, or anything that brings a sense of security and comfort, but most importantly, pleasure. So sometimes we can feel secure and comfortable, but we're not necessarily experiencing pleasure. So we always want to make sure that is something that we can add to this formula. Now, lying on the earth or sitting with a tree or holding a stone in your hand or on your body, doing some kind of ceremony underneath the sky during the day or at night. I especially love doing it underneath the full moon. Can be so fun and fulfilling and pleasurable. While feeling the gratitude and deep appreciation for the gift of this life, we are all here now to help be stewards of this great shift into a new reality. We're here to help with that shift. And with our love and attention, then we can bring it into a more pleasurable way of being, a more pleasurable experience. Something that years ago, one of my priestess sisters and I declared was the pleasure paradigm, and that we were priestesses of the pleasure paradigm. So we can do that with this full moon. This is the perfect time to really claim the energy of sacred pleasure. And so it's also a time for uh, nurturing emotional well-being with yourself and a significant other or any significant others, however that might work for you, and allow yourself time to focus on feeling safe and content and the pleasure of being embodied, what it means to be embodied. Allow pleasurable, peaceful energy to show up for us and to deeply and completely appreciate our home here on earth and all the gifts we are given every day. So also finding pleasure in simplicity, and how can we create a greater sense of pleasure through simplicity might be something to ask ourselves at this full moon time. Now, the pleasure and sensuality of Taurus is being illuminated by this full moon, and it's going to be a super bright, super big full moon because of the fact that it is also close to the earth. So when we celebrate and enjoy life's physical pleasures, such as good food, comfortable surroundings, and activities that engage the senses, more of these experiences find their way to us as we step into the sacred pleasure paradigm, meaning that if pleasure has been seen as sinful, we definitely want to define it as sacred. And how are we experiencing sacred pleasure? So here's the chart of the full moon, pretty amazing. The moon at 24 Taurus, the sun at 24 Scorpio, opposite one another, representing the full moon. And we also have Pluto, within just a couple of days, about 4 days of returning back to Aquarius. So it's at 2955 Capricorn, at one of the most comprehensive points that Pluto could possibly be. And it's still in opposition to Mars. The exact opposition was the end of October. But it's still in a fairly close opposition to Mars, and will continue to be in opposite Mars for quite some time. And so this will be something that we've talked in the Astro Priestesses videos. I'll put a link to that, and we'll probably continue to be talking about into 2025. Also, we have Mercury at 16, almost 16 and a half Sagittarius, opposite Jupiter at 19 Gemini, square Saturn at 12, almost 13 degrees Pisces, creating a T-square. And this is a powerful activation because Saturn, of course, is the earth energy. It's how we create things in form. Mercury is the messenger, bringing messages to us, and Jupiter's helping to expand our vision and possibility around what we're bringing into form. And so this is part of this, as we're creating our intention and our connection to this full moon. So the other thing is that Venus being within less than a degree, it's here at almost 5 degrees Capricorn, squaring the North Node at almost 5.5, or a little over 5.5 degrees Aries. So this is activating that Aries Libra nodal axis, featuring the wisdom connected to our relationship to self and others. And how are we celebrating and energizing and initiating, I guess, is another way to say that, this sense of sacred pleasure that we can live and embody and be connected to. So the alchemy of Pluto and Mars is about actively dismantling the shadow of any narcissistic ways of dominating and controlling others for personal gain. So this is something that gets in the way of creating a pleasure paradigm for everyone on Earth, for all plants, animals, beings, seen and unseen, has been more of this narcissistic aspect. So there is a relational emphasis on sacred pleasure, and how are we cultivating a sense of how to create that in a sustainable way that will last and get results over time. And so we've got so much support for that to happen at this full moon. Also, Uranus, well, as we can see here, Uranus is pretty exactly conjunct the full moon. And so that brings in a whole other energy, because Uranus is the planet of revolution for evolution, not just revolution for the sake of revolution, though sometimes it can express that way if that's how people are expressing it. But ideally for the purpose of evolution, so that we grow and evolve. So things need to be disrupted. The old needs to be disrupted so that we can move into a new way of being, and also innovation and doing things in new ways that are cutting edge, that are leading us into revolutionary ways of thinking and experiencing life here. Now, Uranus went into Taurus in 2018 and is there until 2026, but there is a brief dip into Gemini next year, I think starting in July of 2025. And then it will go back into Taurus. So we could think of this combination of Uranus and Taurus inspiring revolutionary imagery, as we consider how Taurus represents stability and tradition and material comfort, while Uranus is unpredictable and changing. So it's definitely going to disrupt the tendency for Taurus to want to kind of know what's happening and what's coming next, because we're not going to know. I mean, there's this unpredictability that's connected to this. So this full moon is enhancing the unexpected changes available to us in creating a new earth reality, a new experience in a garden of abundance, or a garden of earthly delight has also been called, or the Garden of Eden, it has also been called. So this Taurus super full moon is a great time to spend time in nature, to give loving energy to the earth, to walk barefoot or put your bare feet on the earth, or any other activities that will help you ground in these unpredictable times, and to trust that no matter how unstable things are and how crazy and how utterly maybe unexpected the changes are that have already been happening and will continue to happen, that we can find ways to ride those waves of change, in a sense of groundedness, ideally in a sense of groundedness, but not always. We might not always be able to do that, and then just trust that we will be able to get back to a sense of groundedness at some point. And something else that might help is to simplify, as we already spoke about, and declutter. And so decluttering is often associated with letting go of attachment to material things, but there's other things that can clutter our life: belief systems, habits, attitudes, addictions, expectations that might be cluttering our life. So how can we release and let go of the things that are holding us back from experiencing a greater sense of sacred pleasure, enjoying and feeling more liberated and free to experience this beautiful garden of life that is ours to experience when we are choosing that. So as I love to do, I like to talk about the moonrise and moon set, and you can find it at this link, and then I'll put the link in the show notes. You can find for your location. This is for where I live in Tucson, Arizona. And on November 15th, the full moon is rising at 5:09 p.m. And what I also like to look at is when the sun is setting, and it's setting at 5:23 p.m. So the moon is rising as the sun is setting, uh, but the moon will rise slightly before the sunset. Now, of course, this also depends on your horizon line. For me, I have mountains in the east, so I won't see the moon until after the sun has set. So it's not going to look the same for everybody else, for everybody, but it will, but it kind of gives you a sense that they're rising and setting very close together, which is basically what a full moon is. It's the opposition of the sun to the moon. So the moon's gonna rise as the sun sets, and the sun is gonna rise as the moon sets on the following day. And we can see that the moon is rising at 6:54 a.m. On the 16th. It's like a minute later every day. And then on the morning of the 16th, the moon will be setting at 7:55, almost an hour later. So we may be able to see that full moon setting in the sky if you're up early and looking towards the west at that time. So the moon rise and set on November 15th is within less than 15 minutes of each other. And so again, they're pretty closely opposite. Now the exact full moon is 2:29 p.m. And so if we're looking around 5 p.m., that's about 2.5 hours later for this all to be taking place. So again, this will depend on your horizon line, also on your location. So definitely look that up if you want to have be able to see that big full moon rising over the eastern horizon on November 15th. Now it's also a perigee full moon, and I've shared this many times before. So this is the path of the moon around the earth, and here when it's perigee, it's closest to the earth, and it makes the moon look bigger when it's a full moon. And then at apogee, it's further away from the earth. And this again is it's not the closest. I should have corrected that. It is the third closest full moon of this year. And it's going to have a bigger impact on the Earth's magnetic field. So, and you can also see here how much bigger the moon looks when it's at its supermoon or perigee phase. Now, also wanted to, like I've been doing in past videos, share a little bit about the Vedic nakshatras, or from a Hindu Vedic perspective, what part of the sky is this? And they have 27 nakshatras that represent how the moon moves from one day to the next. And of course, it doesn't always move exactly, but this is how they divided up the sky. And this one actually is moving pretty exactly. So we can see here's the moon. It's kind of at the beginning of this nakshatra, on as it's entering into this full moon phase. And then it's going to be leaving. And by the next day, we'll see it in a moment, it's going to be leaving this nakshatra. So it's moving pretty fast. Now, the other thing is Uranus is inside this nakshatra already. And Jupiter is going to be above the moon, as the moon is coming into the sky. So something just to be aware of. So we'll see more about this in a moment. Now here is the setting aspect of when it looks like it's setting. And so the moon is, as at the beginning of the day, is entering into this nakshatra, and then at the end of the day is leaving this nakshatra. So on November 15th, the Kritika, I'm going to talk about a little bit more nakshatra, at 8:38 a.m. is the moon is entering at 8:38 a.m. and it's not exactly full yet. It will be full at 2:29 p.m. And then it's leaving this nakshatra at 6:38 a.m. on November 16th. So it's taking a little less than 24 hours. Now Uranus is going to be in this nakshatra for the next 2 or 3 years. So something worth noting. If you have planets, angles, nodes between 20 degrees Taurus and 3 degrees Gemini, almost 4 degrees Gemini, then they are in this nakshatra, in this part of the sky. Now, the thing to remember is that the nakshatras represent the constellations, the backdrop that the signs, the seasonal signs move through. And I gave the seasonal sign location, not the Vedic, how they determine it, because it gets too confusing. This is in the constellation of the bull. Well, it starts in the constellation of the ram and moves into the constellation of the bull. And so from their perspective, they would say it's from Aries to Taurus. And from here, it's saying it's from Taurus to Gemini by seasonal sign. This nakshatra has, you see the symbol here, it's representing a knife or a spear. And it also is representing star of fire. So it has a lot to do with the way that they perceive this, is that it is decisive with the power, courage, and determination to cut through problems, burn through illusions, and get to the truth. Love that. And so amazing, because Uranus is also there to help reveal the things that are in the way of being able to be more free to experience the greater pleasure of life. This nakshatra is also associated with leadership, independence, justice, loyalty, adventure, a quest for deeper truths, and an ability to decisively initiate change, which is something we've also seen because Uranus is right there with this full moon, and Uranus is all about initiating change. So this nakshatra is enhancing what's already playing out in terms of what we're seeing with this full moon. So we could say that this full moon in this nakshatra suggests that we have the power and support to initiate powerful changes within ourselves, within who we are, that are aligned with creating a more pleasurable world and celebrating and honoring all life. So this is a part of the intention that we can hold with this nakshatra. Now, this is how the nakshatra is drawn in the sky with the stars in the sky, which I don't quite fully comprehend. I'm just starting to learn more about this. And so, but I just thought I'd put it there for those who want to see it. And then here we go. So looking east at moonrise on the evening of November 15th, about 6:30 p.m., the moon has just come up over the horizon and it's with the Pleiades. So the full moon is happening, and it's also right here with Uranus. So it hasn't left its relationship to Uranus. So the Pleiades rising, the moon rising, the moon has already risen. It's actually rising around 5, a little after 5, depending on, again, on your horizon line. But by 6:30, everybody should be able to see the moon and the Pleiades fairly close together. And then looking west on the morning of November 16th as they're setting. So here's the moon still above the Pleiades. The Pleiades will set first, and then the moon will set after that. Now, the Pleiades energy also is coming into this full moon, clearly, because the full moon is passing the Pleiades. And I will put a link to an article about the Pleiades to share more for people who are interested in that. I'm not going to go into that in greater detail right now. Now, here again, November 15th at 5 p.m., this is the moon just coming up over the horizon. And again, that depends on your horizon line. And Uranus, is trying to be seen here, but this horizon line isn't letting us see that. So we wouldn't see Uranus anyway. Now, this is the background, and we think about Taurus and sacred pleasure. When it's healthy, this is a grounded, stable energy that's able to fully receive, embody, and savor the beauty and pleasure of life. Savoring, staying present in the moment, staying with the experience for as long as possible. So we could imagine that Taurus is growing and evolving. It's about taking time to grow and evolve, its ability to discover and master embodied aliveness, blissful pleasure, ecstatic life force, deeply savoring the gifts life has to offer. And so the ability to savor with gratitude and appreciation, and that's one of the best ways that we can savor the moment, just be present in the moment. And I love this image of those women gazing into the light in her hands with the full moon over here. And so that just to kind of give a sense of like really staying present in the moment to savor this. Now, Riane Eisler wrote a book called Sacred Pleasure, Sex, Myth, and the Politics of the Body, New Paths to Power and Love is the subtitle of this. And she's the one who wrote The Chalice and the Blade. And so in this book, she's exploring how the struggle for our future is not just political in the conventional sense of the word, but rather it revolves around fundamental issues of pain and pleasure. We have been conditioned to believe that pain is our greatest teacher, when pleasure can also be as great a teacher. It's not that one is more important or less important, but we want to celebrate how pleasure lets us know we're on the right track. When it feels good, we know we're on the right track. When we're allowing ourselves to experience just life force, beautiful, blissful life force energy in our body, that lets us know we're on the right track. So she says, above all, it helps us better understand and then hopefully break free of the agonies we chronically suffer in our search for healthier and more satisfying ways of living and loving. Oh, just so beautiful. And so at this full moon, how are you committing to experiencing even deeper and more embodied, sustainable, sacred pleasure? Good question. Definitely worth tuning into and asking. When we're asking questions, the universe will start sending us answers. So, and it's important how we ask the questions. So, how are you committing to experiencing even deeper and more embodied, sustainable, sacred pleasure? Are you willing to commit to that? And if not, what's in the way of your willingness to say, yes, I want more pleasure. I want to experience sacred pleasure in my life. That is my divine purpose, to experience the divine pleasure of what it means to be embodied here at this time. So, savoring and enjoying the pleasure of life. And I love this definition of savor. It means learning to live in the present and fully enjoy the gift of each moment. Oh, it's like, do we do that? I know I'm still working on that. I don't always do that. Sometimes I just skip on to the next thing. So, uh, what I have found is gratitude is the key to a daily embodied practice of enjoying, savoring, and experiencing the pleasure of life. Taking time to celebrate and be grateful for, appreciate what is activating your experience of pleasure. And I just recently heard this quote from Lynn Twist, who wrote The Soul of Money. And she said, "What you appreciate appreciates." So we're appreciating the 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 pleasure, having a plan to savor, enjoy, and engage each day, to appreciate what we are getting to experience in each day. Each morning, remind yourself to be present and allow yourself time to slow down, breathe in, and fully enjoy the moment. And remember the saying, don't borrow from tomorrow. Instead, practice savoring today. I love that. Don't borrow from tomorrow. And how many of us do that? I know I have done that. So remember to savor the moment without already living in the next moment. Savor the moment you're in. Savoring this moment as I'm doing this video for all of you. Hope savoring this experience and hoping that you will all savor it too. So here's some steps to greater pleasure and happiness. And before that, I love that when kindness given, received, and witnessed is sacred pleasure. When we give kindness, we can experience pleasure. When we receive kindness, we experience pleasure. And when we witness someone doing or being or expressing kindness to someone else, that is also sacred pleasure. Just love that. And I love this rainbow image. It was taken back in 2013 over Canyon de Chelly, Arizona. Got to spend some very amazing sacred time there. So the steps to greater pleasure are less thinking, more feeling, less frowning, more smiling, less talking, more listening, less judging, more accepting, less complaining, more appreciation, because what we appreciate appreciates, and less fear, more love. We can, when we find ourselves in fear, we can just find a, if we can find love, find a way to just come from appreciation and love and acceptance. And one of my favorite quotes from Ken Kai's, he wrote a book called The Three Prescriptions for Happiness, was he said, accept what is for now. And when we can accept what is for now, we are staying in the moment. And ideally, even if we don't like it, we might find that by being in the moment with it and not resisting what's going on, that the energy shifts and changes and we can find greater pleasure in that moment. So this is the full moon, and I just there will be additional articles and videos in the show notes, and you can get notified when a new video is posted by subscribing, of course. And then if you want more information on the zodiacal constellations and how the seasonal signs are moving through them, uh, I'll have another link in the show notes to My Star Alchemy, where we are offering a massive discount on all the courses we've already done that might be worthy and worth your time. They're really fun and amazing and give you a perspective of the stars and the constellations and how some of the stars come together in different gateways and so on. So I just want to end again with this idea that kindness given, received, and witnessed is sacred pleasure, imagining that we all have a very pleasurable full moon experience, and that is the beginning of creating a more pleasurable life in general.